Fast X is the first installment into the Fast X trilogy, which I guess is the capper of the Fast and Furious franchise. I didn't know what to really expect out of a first movie of a trilogy that's already a franchise, but who knows, the logic from this series has long been gone by now. And the last movie, I didn't hate it like other people did, but I didn't think it was necessarily good either. I was just kind of lukewarm on it. It didn't impress me in any way. It impressed me that it was so absurd that we went to space. This movie definitely has moments like that, but obviously nothing as big as space. This movie, yes, you have all the over-the-top action stunts, the big car explosions, the CGI, and for the most part, CGI looks good. There are a couple moments where you go that's green screen, that's definitely green screen, but it wasn't a big moment of the movie where it needs to be the best looking in the world, but at the same time, there was moments where it didn't look good either. When you get a new movie in the franchise, when I do my review, I want to talk about, what's different, what's new, what's different here, and all I can think of is that Justin Lin left about a week into filming for can't say his last name properly, Louis Leader. He directed The Incredible Hulk, and he took over the direction, and overall I think he did a competent job when you compare to Lin versus him. I think he just adapted it pretty well because the movie looks like and feels like a Justin Lin movie. I suspect that Lin left because of how ridiculous it got. Who knows? It's all speculation. This movie, the biggest difference outside of production wise is that we have a interesting villain this time around. We have Jason Momoa. He plays the antagonist, and yes, they find a weird way to shoehorn him into the franchise to make it something bigger than we ever thought. Yes, it's as over the top as you thought, but Jason Momoa really just gave it his 100% here. He was trying so hard because he made the movie work. I don't think I would enjoy this movie if it weren't for Jason Momoa just giving it his 100%. There is a line delivery that Jason Momoa gives in this movie that is one of the hardest I've laughed at a line in a movie in quite a while. I was cracking up at this line. I can't say it because if I say the specific line, it's like spoiler heaven, actually, if I say the line. And there's a surprising amount of stuff that happens that's spoilerish in this movie that I really can't talk about because there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about that I just can't. Obviously, this is definitely a part one of a three-part trilogy, but at the same, I feel weird calling it a trilogy because it's it definitely feels like just the next Fast and Furious movie. Like I said, it definitely feels like part one, and so the way things wrap up, it feels like a part one. Some of the things that they do within this last couple minutes is so bonkers and not really what I wanted them to do in the first place. I'll just say there is a reveal, and as it was happening, I joked to myself in my head, haha, they did this. And then they actually did it. I was like, wait, God, I was joking. I'm sorry. And it was rubbed into my face. You'll know it when you see it. It's quite literally within the last couple seconds of the movie. So don't get to think you're at the end of the movie and be like, oh, I don't know what he was talking about. You'll know it when you see it. I am just bamboozled by that last 5 or so minutes where they just really went for it. I think they kind of stopped caring and just said, you know what, we're going to do whatever we want. And I respect it for that, kind of, and don't at the same time. I respect that these movies are just going all in with the over-the-top action, and that's what I want. But at the same time, I feel like they should build a competent enough script to where I just kind of care at least. The action's fun, it's fine, and the movie's actually paced pretty well considering that it's very sloppy and it's over 2 hours. There's a bunch of storylines that I didn't care about. There's a bunch of things that go back and forth, and the movie is super fast-paced. You don't really have a second to breathe. And that's all good, I guess, because if it were not paced well, you would just be stuck in the middle of this really bad script. There is so much saving this movie from its script. You got Jason Momoa, the fun action, and the cast just kind of knowing how to guide themselves through this movie just to make it work. You got Tyrese Gibson back again, and of course he's as funny as ever. There's a lot of good gags here. Another thing that bothers me is that I feel like the whole entire cast knows exactly what these movies are, but Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel, I feel like, takes it way too seriously and genuinely thinks he's making real cinema, when the rest of the cast just kind of knows it's a Fast and Furious movie. And that's why I feel like almost Jason Momoa is kind of like that perfect villain, because I feel like he's the actor that shows up on set and knows he's making a Fast and Furious movie, accepts it, and goes completely goofy with it. And Vin Diesel takes it way too seriously, and that's why I feel like he's almost the perfect villain for these movies. Like I said, the standout of this movie, Jason Momoa. I hope he gives performances like this in movies more often, because this was something special. And that's how it's weird to say that there's something that special with the villain performance in a Fast and Furious movie, because there's not a single villain I can remember from the other ones. What's just so frustrating about this one is just that it's littered with storylines that I don't care about. And when you split up the team this much, when they're not together, you just kind of stop caring, because Vin Diesel goes off and has his little side quest again, and it's way too self-serious. And then you got the side quest with Han and I can't think of his name, Tyrese Gibson's character, and they're all just kind of like joking around, going from place to place. And then you got John Cena's character going off with the son, and they're murdering people, and it's fun. And then you got Charlize Theron and Michelle Rodriguez doing their own thing. And I'm thinking to myself, do I actually care about any of these working stories? And the answer is no. What did I actually care about was Jason Momoa's villain, because I can watch that all day long. Thankfully, Jason Momoa is in this movie a lot, and he takes up a lot of the screen time, and it distracts you from how uninteresting the actual story is, because he's eating it up. He's just relishing in the corniness that is these Fast and Furious movies, and he ultimately, I swear to God, as weird as it's about to say, Jason Momoa saved this movie from being maybe the worst one of the series, because everything else in this movie is basic action stuff that didn't necessarily impress me. Like, it looked good overall, the action is confidently well done. The edits are a little too much, and that's another note I did notice. There's a couple scenes where the editing is absolutely horrendous, particularly dialogue scenes where it's cutting for no reason. There's one scene in particular with Vin Diesel and Brie Larson in a bar, and it cuts to different angles of her face, even though it's and it's not like that unnecessary cut. It goes like from right here to right here, right here to right here, and it does it like a couple of times. I'm like, why are you cutting to different angles of her face? It makes me questions of like why they did something like that, because to me it just makes no sense. Because like if you have I feel like the editor's goal is to cut as little as possible, but when you cut for no reason like that, I'm like, why are you cutting? It really feels like the filmmakers are so afraid that people will get bored watching this movie. It has me questioning. I'm like, so you can't even have a single scene without cutting every 2 seconds if it's just dialogue. I just feel like they need to trust in the audience just a little bit more besides just car explosions. Bring back these characters together, and yet still have Jason Momoa, of course, and just roll with that. Bring back these characters, make one storyline. That's basic. We don't need convoluted this and that. Another thing that did bother me with this movie is, like I said, the action sequences were fun, and this is a problem I've had with the last couple of movies. The technology in this universe has gotten so over the top, it almost just comes off as lazy. It really comes off as lazy of, oh, we need to get out of this situation, so we have this technology that we can use that we go, whoa, how does that so cool? But at the same time, it's just like, I really feel like the franchise is just pulling stuff out of nowhere and just going like, yeah, this is the answer. We got this piece of technology. It's not as MacGuffin-y as the last movie, and it's more, oh, you gotta save this person from this thing, and you got blah. It's a slight improvement over the last one, nothing crazy. This would be about the same quality as the last one if it weren't for Jason Momoa, which is so weird for me to say because I like Jason Momoa. I think he's an okay Aquaman, but this is the first movie where I was like, I get the hype. So yeah. Whoa, I was editing my review and then I realized that I forgot to, give a score. Anyways, the score for Fast X is a 5.5 out of 10. Anyways, comment down below what you guys thought of Fast X. I'm very curious to see what you guys thought of this one. Are you guys a Fast and Furious fan who's been loving it all the way through? Are you guys a Fast and Furious person that just hate the new ones? Or are you someone like me that only really likes 5 and 7? Because, I'm not the biggest Fast and Furious person. Fast 5 is great, and Furious 7 I think is a very entertaining movie, and the rest are just kind of a blur to me, and I can say with confidence, even though this movie has some very entertaining moments, it's still a very silly action movie that I will sadly kind of forget within the next couple of days until I see it again, maybe a year from now. Anyways, like, share, subscribe, and stuff like that, and adios.